Welcome back, America, to the News from the Real World podcast. I'm Quinn.
I'm Jody.
I'm Jess.
I'm Eleanor.
In this next segment, we start off with an article about men and women.
Yes.
Can they get along in the workplace? Tell us, Jess.
More feelings.
All of the feelings.
All the feelings.
I don't fit in with anything because this article just described women and completely did not describe me. It's called "Why Women Collaborate, Men Work Alone, and Everybody's Angry." It's an editor pick from FastCompany.com by Drake Bear. It basically said that there was a study that was done, and they put a bunch of women and men in a workplace, and they said you can either complete this task by working in a group or by working alone. And more women chose to work in a group, and more men chose to work alone. And then they repeated the study and said that there was a 10% increase in the incentive. So, like, you'll get something out of it if you work in a group. And
This is all true, by the way. Every week I try and film the podcast on my own, but I always get
we
interrupted.
want to collaborate.
Yeah, we all collaborate.
That's true.
So I thought it was really interesting because I know I'm a woman and I love theater and I love collaborating in theater, but I hate working on group projects. Anytime I get an option in a class to say, oh, work with the group or work alone, I will always work alone, always.
Antisocial Jess.
I am very antisocial. I just thought it was really interesting that I was like, women want to work together, and I was like, I don't want to work together with anybody.
Well, I think these kind of studies are like really dangerous for the kind of generalizations they draw
Yeah.
about men and women.
And
Yeah.
we actually had a commenter say almost the exact same thing. Emma said, this article is frustratingly lacking in evidence and statistics to back up its premise. There are so many factors that could contribute to this study, but none of them are mentioned here. It would be nice to see a more extensive article on this topic with more information to illuminate the findings.
Yeah.
As our friend Andrew O'Keefe likes to say, this is a thin article on a fat topic.
Oh, man. He gets two shouts out. I have a student comment from you coming up. Nice.
But like, I thought, first of all, I thought two things were weird. That they should have, I really wanted to hear more about the research. It was just like, this is what we found. They didn't say how they found it. And then they kind of went on this other tangent about compensation and how, you know, it was exactly flipped for compensation, that women were more sensitive to the fact that, who was it that you know, that people aren't making more and men are, like, more oblivious to that sort of thing, to which I want to say, duh. But, but I was really curious as to how, like, I want to know what questions they asked to identify those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I could probably pinpoint something wrong in those questions.
I'm really interested in where they did this study. I mean, did they do it in one workplace? Did they do it in 100 workplaces? Were they all the same industry? Were there
Every
multiple?
workplace is so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is that, like, there are a lot of studies like this, and they often do find these things, right? But, like, I think the danger is that then we say, oh, women are more collaborative, or we say that's evolutionary, or we say that that's, like, hardwired into us.
Men are just
Where-
lone wolves.
Exactly, where it's like, you know, you need to look at the circumstances that have, like, brought about why women behave that way, you know? So it's like, there are less women in science, you know, for example. But is that because women aren't as good at science as men? No. But, okay, why are not more women getting into science? Well, you know, maybe it's got something to do with the way that we teach science, which, like, appeals to, like, men more in schools or whatever, or the fact that women are told there's less women in science. You're probably not good at science, so we, like, inherit that belief and, like, so on and so forth. So I feel like this article really needed to look at why this finding was found, not like,
Exactly.
just, like, stating it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, incomplete article, incomplete information.
Yeah, I didn't get much from it either.
It was very brief.
Especially because especially in our field, we all collaborate. It's not a big deal.
Well, they say, I had this film professor who used to say, you know, to be a writer, you need a pen, to be a painter, you need a paintbrush, and to make a film, you need an army.
Yeah.
You just can't, I don't think theater, and they say all you need is a plank and a passion, but I think you need a plank and a passion and some help. Like, there's no way you can do it alone.
And like theatre, whenever we get advice from, you know, people in our field about how to get ahead in theatre, it's always like, well, you just need to be really good at, like, working with other people. You want to be somebody that everyone wants to work with, and that's just as important as, like, your skills and talent.
Completely.
Because theatre's totally
Regardless of
collaborative.
gender.
Exactly.
Our next article, it's an editor pick, and it comes from c2meworld.com. And it's entitled, PBS Revisits the Panic Broadcast by Paul McLean of Radio World. And actually, I don't even need to really look at this because I know this story so well.
us about it.
PBS is looking back. It's the 75-year anniversary of the famous, or infamous, if you will, War of the Worlds radio broadcast that the Mercury Theater, led by Orson Welles, the great wonderkind Orson Welles, and John Houseman put up, where they had done a series of radio adaptations of novels, and they chose H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, reset it in New Jersey, as opposed to England, and did it in the style of news bulletins. So, and many people had been tuned in at the time to Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy's radio show, and missed the opening disclaimer that says, the following is a work of fiction. So they turn to War of the Worlds, and suddenly they think America's under attack by aliens because the show is done as a series of news reports. Amazing story, and of course it caused mass hysteria. Something like 1 million people thought that, oh my God, we're under attack by aliens, and people were running in the streets of New Jersey, fearing for their lives from an alien attack. What did you guys think? What did you get out of this?
I really liked the part of the article. You're gonna have to help me out here. I really liked the part of the article where they talked about newspapers having to compete with the radio station.
Yeah, and so they use this as, see, radio is untrustworthy. Yeah, love it.
I think the article made a really interesting point about relying on your media that you're listening to, and all these people thought that this thing was actually real, and it's because it was the news. So you gotta be careful what the news is telling you.
And of course, Orson Welles was all apologetic the next day, but he just ate it up.
Yeah.
Look what my theater piece did. Amazing.
Isn't there a picture of him smirking?
Yeah, they mentioned that. There's always a little smirk on Mr. Welles' face.
I mean, I just love this story. I think everyone in theatre loves this story.
Yeah.
Just because it's shows you the impact that a piece of art can have, and it's just fantastic.
And also because of they make a point of this, I guess, in this American Experience documentary, that the climate of the time was we were in a build-up to World War II, so we were getting kind of panicked news reports every weekly.
Yeah.
And so of course the atmosphere was just ripe for this kind of mass hysteria.
And that's the genius of Orson Welles, just tapping into
the
that social
pulse.
context
Yeah.
and the politics of the time. I mean, it's brilliant.
Love Orson Welles. Andrew O'Keefe writes, "It actually draws a strange comparison to reality TV for me, a kind of bizarro version of the War of the Worlds phenomenon, where we know for a fact it's all scripted and fake, but the facade that it's real somehow heightens the drama for us." Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe.
Interesting observation.
And the main thing I got out of this article is, again, the power of mass media. Absolute power.
Yeah.
And
the
that
power of
hasn't changed.
sound as well.
Yeah. Anyway, well done. And our last article for the week. It's a frivolous one, folks. Take it away.
Okay,
Eleanor.
this is The Art of Sculpting Ice. I wouldn't say it's frivolous, just more whimsical and
Yeah, I guess
a
that's
way
more
to end the day.
true.
This is a student pick from Tested.com by Norman Chan, and this is a 2-minute video showing workers from Creative Ice, who are a Seattle-based ice sculpting company, transforming these big blocks of ice into these beautiful works of art. And it's just it's
quite
just a beautiful video. It's all set to music, and there's no speaking or anything, and it's just shows you they're really the detailed and the works of art that they're creating, and it's just a kind of a fascinating process.
It's so weird seeing these pristine blocks of ice in this kind of tool shop.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
they're picking and they're using drills to, make your your kid's bar mitzvah ice sculpture that they shoot vodka through or whatever they make.
So I was kind of angry with the video. I felt deceived because it is a beautiful video, but it's so artsy in the way that the shots are taken and slowed down.
Yeah.
You would have no idea of how much time did one of those processes take, because it's so artsy and slow-mo, and it's I wanted to see it. And I just watched that video, and I was kind of trying to get a sense of the says the environment.
Yeah.
Where do they get that ice from? Where do they get these
Well,
tools
it seems like
from? Because
They
you know,
must
they have a-
produce it
They have
there.
a CNC thing for.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting
For
the
the-
amount of different techniques they use.
Yeah.
They had this giant CNC router that they used to like carve logos and stuff, and then the guy used like a chisel and a hammer to cut out the shape of a starfish.
And then to smooth it out, they'd pour water on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And I got thinking about these poor guys who work in 0 degrees like all day.
Some of them, I was noticing that some of them were wearing short sleeves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were all wearing the rain slicker boots and the smocks and the gloves, and I was paying a lot of attention to the things that I think the video probably wouldn't have wanted me to notice.
Yeah.
But
I thought it was kind of interesting because to me, like, ice sculptures are always associated with like cheesy bad weddings or functions or whatever, and the video really kind of elevated it to this like very poetic level. But then when
Yeah.
you look at some of the sculptures, they are like company logos and they
Yeah.
aren't really that like interesting. They are kind of cheesy. But then
Yeah.
there were some like things that you would say, well, that is a work of art. Like the starfish was just really beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
As opposed to the
How
Seattle
do they-
Mariners emblem.
how do they put these facilities on cruise ships is what I want to know, because I feel like
Yeah.
the cruise ship was my first exposure to these like ice sculptures. You know what I mean?
Well, there's
I assume they
freezer.
just bring them and
Yeah.
freeze them.
So there's
Yeah.
a
Oh,
student
you've
comment
ruined it.
here from Kay Clark who says, ice sculptures have actually been a sort of a fascination for me ever since I was a kid. They seem so majestic and yet they would only last for a small amount of time before their beauty would literally melt away.
Makes me wonder, when you put it like that, makes me wonder how old the art of ice sculpting is, because if you think about it, it's one of nature's oldest raw materials.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder, I
mean,
want to
think
like go
about
back
the
in Renaissance
igloo.
paintings and see if there are pictures of ice sculptures in them, see how far back we've been doing this.
Well, I mean, think about like the igloo. That's like a form of an ice sculpture.
There you go, yeah. That's an ice architect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
The ice hotels.
But yeah, check out the video. It's very interesting.
That concludes this broadcast of the News from the Real World podcast. I'm Quinn.
I'm Jody.
Jess.
I'm Eleanor.
Stay beautiful, CMU.
They announced on Playbill.com today that Alanis Morissette is going to be reworking her debut album, Jagged Little Pill, for Broadway.
Amazing.
Now, normally I am not a fan, and I do not encourage jukebox musicals. However, I cannot wait to see this one.